And we are live. Ultra Podcast Z, episode 40, special K-pop x J-pop episode. It is Tuesday, September 18th, 7:10, sorry for the lateness, 7:10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And we have a crazy-ass podcast for everyone tonight. We're live here on Twitch. Throw yourself into the chat if you want. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to comment. If you're watching on YouTube, we are live on Twitch, twitch.tv/AJPlays. And as always, I am Manuel, the host of Ultra Podcast Z. I am not joined tonight with Konaru, as she had to take the week off for AWA prep. But taking her place are three other people, because that's how this works, right? First up is Molly. Can you introduce yourself, Molly?
Hi, I'm Molly.
Hi, I'm Molly. That's that's Molly for you.
What do you want me to say?
Never mind, Molly. It's fine. Moving on. Also tonight, joined by Tiffany.
Hi.
Hi, that's Tiffany.
That's me.
And still Heidi, yeah. And tonight's special guest for our K-pop x J-pop episode is none other than Sean. Introduce yourself, Sean. Now nobody would know you, so give yourself a good introduction.
Hey, what's up? My name's Sean. I'm on the radio on KCSS. I go by the name DJ Batman, and I cover J-pop and K-pop. Actually, I cover all Asian music, but we're very K-pop heavy. And yeah, I am. If you're wondering if you are a K-pop fan, yes, I am the mama guy. You know, that was me.
Yeah, I mean, you went pretty viral there. I remember that was crazy. Cause I remember seeing you shared around by obviously friends of mine who I knew had no idea who you were, but they were sharing like hashtag goals kind of thing, you know. I'm like, oh my god, I know him. But yeah, that's you.
Yeah, that's how you want to spend your birthday, bro.
Exactly. So we have a crazy huge podcast, so we're gonna jump into it. But here are some things we're gonna talk about. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm gonna try to add in timestamps for these about when we start them. But first off, we're not gonna have any of our usual weekly, not topics, our weekly segments this week. This is a full K-pop x J-pop special. So here's what we're going to try to cover tonight. First, we're going to tell you what it is. We're going to go over what we're going to try to cover. We're going to compare and contrast K-pop and J-pop. We're going to talk about K-pop in the Western music scene. And then our big topics, we're going to talk about HyunA and E'Dawn drop from Cube Entertainment over dating. We're going to talk about Produce48 and IZ ONE, who spoiler, I refuse to call IZ ONE. I'm only calling them that because it's at the top of the show. I don't want to give away my little bias on their name until later. But I'm just letting y'all know.
I thought it was iZone.
Exactly. It's officially no, it's IZ ONE, isn't it?
It's pronounced iZone.
No,
iZone.
I
all
pronounce
into one, bro.
No, it's IZ ONE because it's supposed to be as one.
Yeah, exactly. I love how we already split, but no, it really is pronounced IZ ONE, which is why the stars there.
No, you're right. It is iZone.
It's funny you both of you say that, because that's my argument. I refuse to call them IZ ONE. I call them iZone. I only called them IZ ONE because I didn't want to have the argument now, but we already had it. There you go. And then, believe it or not, we have one more topic after that. We're talking about BTS and Akimoto Yasushi. And if you don't know what that is, then I'm sure if you're watching this, you know exactly what that is. But yeah. Anyhow, we're live in the chat. Oh, my thing froze in the chat, but I'm gonna keep moving on anyway. So what are we going to try to cover tonight? This isn't a podcast about K-pop per se. I thought it would be a bit better to kind of talk about both. How they compare and contrast, the ways they intersect, and it just happens to be they've intersected a lot lately. And also, I don't want this to be a versus panel. I don't think any of us are going to argue, right? We're all on the same good levels, I think. So hopefully we don't. Mm-hmm. But the reason I mention that is that if you want to argue, you on YouTube more likely than on Twitch. I doubt anyone on Twitch is going to argue with us. Please do so under the assumption that we're trying not to. So if you differ with if your opinions differ with ours, then just let us know. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna put a little timestamp. I forgot to mark that down when we started talking about what I want to cover. But yeah, I think we all have pretty well grasped views on K-pop and J-pop. A little bit different leaning. Like I think Tiffany is like the more in both camps evenly. Am I wrong, Tiffany?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
you're wrong, but meaning yeah.
yeah, exactly. You're more in both camps evenly. Sean's definitely not like totally K-pop, but you're more K-pop leaning. You know, like you even said earlier,
we're very K-pop heavy, and one of the topics you're covering on here happens to deal with why.
Yes,
we have interviewed plenty of Japanese artists. You and I have been in the same interview room.
Yeah. And I am definitely almost like fully on the J-pop side, and Molly's leans more towards J-pop side, but also is a fan of K-pop. Correct?
Correct.
Recent, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're starting to fall down the K-pop rabbit hole.
Produce, what are you done?
Fun fact:
once you fall down, there is no coming back. Beware.
Yeah, I mentioned this on a different podcast. We talked about Produce48. We've been covering that a lot because that was like pretty big, obviously, and it got us a lot of views, so I kept covering it. But I had a sort of a joke that I was telling Molly, and it's a joke I was telling with a friend of mine that like that we were talking about like about how, you know, a lot of J-pop idol fans become K-pop fans, and the thing was, you either die a J-pop fan or you live long enough to see yourself also become a K-pop fan, because I feel that there's like this natural evolution for anyone who listens to J-pop, like, you know, to eventually casually jump over for whatever reason, for various reasons. And Molly left, but for whatever reasons. So yeah. Anyway, also quick disclosure, if you look at our YouTube channel, there is a K-pop versus J-pop panel that I've been a part of in the past, and that I probably will be a part of again soon. Tiffany laughs. Yeah, it was an interesting podcast. I mean, a panel, but
panel.
But keep in mind, that's not what this is trying to be. So yeah, just in case. And I have a feeling that once I upload this, because of the tags and because Ada J's in the tags, it'll probably be the next suggested video. So just keep that in mind. This is not that. This is not that 2.0. Anyhow. So let's talk about the differences between K-pop and J-pop. Let's start with you, Sean. What do you think the biggest difference is between the two?
The biggest difference. Well, where to start? First of all, K-pop is more accessible abroad.
That is very true.
We have to talk about that. I mean, there was a time where you could walk into a Barnes and Noble and get a TM Revolution CD or like any Japanese idol that you could think of. There was a time, I can remember that time. Now, not so much. Not legally, anyway.
There's I don't know where my note is on that, but very famously to talk about that, about accessibility, a lot of, well, without even going to the YouTube thing, that's a whole nother story. But speaking of releases, Avex, very famously, Avex being one of the biggest record labels in Asia. I think they're actually the biggest in terms of how many artists they represent.
They are the biggest.
Yeah.
I
think they are the biggest because they have branches in all Asian countries. But anyway, they recently put a lot of their Japanese artists into this group where they are not allowed to export, where they actively put I know Dice are in there, who funny enough were guests. I think we both interviewed them. We both interviewed them. I think we both interviewed them at Fanime in San Jose like 2 years back. Yeah, they're on that list along with several of the artists. That's just one that comes to mind because both of us have interviews with them. So rip to that. But anyhow,
yeah. It always amazes me, like, especially with Avex. This is a company that we have worked with, we have close relationships with. It always weirds me out when Avex does something like that, or they geo-block a video or anything like that. And I won't even get into the days when there were K-pop idols signed to Avex.
Yeah, the whole geo-blocking is another issue entirely, but there are still videos that are blocked to this day, through that. Thankfully, a lot of it's been lifted, but once again, I've mentioned this many a times in the past. Not to get too technical here, Japan has this weird cabal of like songwriters and producers and like the jazz rack and all the other nonsense where a lot of these people have to agree on certain things, and that's why there's a lot of red tape when it comes to global releasing. Believe it or not, there actually is an old guard out there saying we don't want this to be outside of Japan. But anyway, Tiffany, can you think of any similarities between K-pop and J-pop?
If I want to be racist, I can say they're Asian.
Oh, well, that is true. That is true. And to be
similarities.
Oh God, but yeah, I'll save my comment till you're done. But go ahead, similarities.
Can it be about fans?
Yeah, of course.
Or does that? Okay. Well, they both have like fan chants with the gay kind of culture. Like that's a big thing. Like like people here don't really have that kind of thing for artists. I mean, maybe they like wave or clap or something, but they don't have like specific calls or cheers. But both J-pop and K-pop, they have that kind of culture. So that's kind of cool. But it's just very different. It's very different, but they have it.
Yeah. Can you think of any other similarities or differences, Molly? I like how whatever
they're both big on groups.
That is true.
I feel like that's something that's kind of not. I mean, they'd still obviously have solo artists, but I feel like girl groups and boy groups and idol groups in general, although different, are a lot bigger there than they are here. Because here it's like they were back in the 90s, but they're not really that much of a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But there it's like every other day there's a new group.
So just shouting out hi to Ant in the chat. I haven't seen you for a couple weeks, I believe. I don't know, maybe you've been silent, but just shouting out to him in the chat. But it's funny, Tiffany mentioned the Asian thing, and that actually brings us to our next little mini topic before we jump into the big ones about the fandom in the West. And that is pretty interesting because I mention this all the time, and I think Sean probably doesn't have to deal with this because his outlets obviously mixes more genres up than we do. But we're almost strictly a Japanese website, a Japanese pop culture website, and I can't even if I had a dollar for every time I told someone exactly like this verbatim. Oh, what do you do? I write for a site called A to J Connections. Oh, what kind of site is that? It's a Japanese pop culture website, and their response. Believe it or not, the vast majority of the time is, oh, so you cover K-pop? And I'm like, I just said Japanese. Maybe if I was just kind of vague and I said an Asian, no. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's so common. It's ridiculously common. I
have to chime in here because the Japanese side of our outlet actually has to deal with this sometimes too.
Oh, really?
We'll be sitting at Fanime and we'll tell them what we're doing, and the guy will ask, I'm not gonna drop any names, but the guy will ask my co-host at the time, he'll ask her, oh, what does she think of this group, which happens to be a Korean group. Now keep in mind does not listen to K-pop, and yeah,
that happens to me all the
it's
time too.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, that happens to me. They ask me what do you think about this, and I'm like, I don't know. Or how does it compare? See, I can compare certain things like that topic we had earlier. One of the reasons I threw it out to you guys and didn't really do a compare and contrast myself is because I feel it's kind of hard to, because I don't listen to much, and what I do is very filtered by the mainstream. I have a note in my things that I feel that pretty much Baby Metal is the only group that really compares to how popular some of the K-pop groups are here. And
like this.
Yeah, that being said, before we move on to that topic, because that's gonna be the next little bit, I've had people who refer to Baby Metal and K-pop in the same breath, as if Baby Metal is K-pop, and that's happened a lot. You don't get that much with the people at the conventions, whatever. You get that a lot with I don't know how to put it, the normies, the ones who are who only know the BTSs and the baby metals of the world. They might have saw them on like, a local TV show, and they do TV appearances in the US, I mean to say, and they might be like, oh, like like K-pop, like baby metal, and it's like, no, they're not Korean. The K in K-pop stands for Korean. I don't know, but they're all Asian, right, Tiffany?
Yeah, they're all Asian.
I'm sure you have to deal with that kind of nonsense
all
here.
all look same. It's okay.
Oh my god!
Oh,
you went there, but
Black America sympathizes with you. Trust me.
No, I mean like. I guess because I don't really push my Hispanicness front and center, but I'm pretty sure that like most, like I'm sure you've heard the argument about like I'm not Mexican. See, the thing is, I am Mexican, so I guess it doesn't affect me. But like how everyone is Mexican if you're of any sort of like Hispanic type people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to say you're Guatemalan.
Dude,
No, you're
do
Mexican.
I need to take a knee?
So yeah, exactly. So we're going there. I guess it goes all over the place. But anyway, let's not go down that particular rabbit hole because that can go let's go somewhere else totally different than we're heading tonight. But speaking of giant things that have happened in the US K-pop related, Molly, why didn't you go see BTS? Why didn't you go see BTS? Are you not a BTS fan like the rest of the world?
No.
No.
That's
That's
Really?
different.
The only K-pop that I'm really into or like care about is like I just liked Produce48 and that kind of got me into it. But I'm not super into any groups like on their own at this point, at least.
Full disclosure, I used to be a pretty big fan of CN Blue and FT Island. FT Island especially.
FT Island has a comeback, I do believe.
FT Island especially, like CN Blue, I love the earlier stuff a bit more so, but CN Blue is more like a couple of their songs. But FT Island I loved. I went to go see their joint concert that they did like several years back, and then I went to go see when FT Island came by themselves. But yeah,
What the heck? I was at that show.
Really? I was at that show. Do you remember?
Yeah, I was in the front row.
The one
I caught
at
Hunky's shirt and I got beat up by some Chinese fangirls.
No, do you
remember?
Do you remember somebody throwing a shirt at him and security was looking around who threw the shirt? And I threw him.
Yeah.
That was me. I threw the shirt for a friend of mine in the audience. I threw the shirt at him.
That's funny.
I threw the shirt at him.
You threw
it hit him.
The shirt at him.
And it
I caught his shirt.
No, exactly. Like I threw the shirt at him. It hit him, and because we were trying to get him to sign it, we threw a marker up too. But like the bassist, I don't remember his name. His name escapes me like in the heat of the moment right now. But the bassist kicked the marker off because it landed too far away. Because I don't want to hit him again. But when I hit him with the shirt, like hit him, security was looking around like, oh shit. I ducked. And I was like, oh damn, I got kicked out of the show.
Yeah, you literally had Korean security looking for you.
Dude,
that was pretty funny.
No, and people
the
and
dudes
like,
with the big ass dudes with the Korean flag on their
exactly.
shoulder. Yeah, they were looking for you.
Yeah, dude. No, because I hit him pretty good. I was like, oh shit. He was talking. It was doing an MC too. It's like everyone's paying attention to him. He's front and center, and I throw the shirt and it hits him. And I wasn't trying to hit him, mind you. I was trying to like throw it at his feet so he would see it. I don't know what I was thinking. That was stupid. It wasn't for me. That's the stupidest thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I was saying, Baby Metal I feel is the only group that's can sell out arenas. And, well, actually, they didn't even sell an arena. I would love to see Baby Metal try to sell out Staples Center. I doubt they could.
Manuel. The problem here is that they haven't tried.
Yeah, I guess that is true. I think they might be able to, especially with the right level of promotion, because much like BTS, Baby Metal has definitely crossed the genre boundaries, as in like they're mildly mainstream. And to be totally fair, probably I don't think BTS goes this route, but they're also kind of like the internet memes, the internet sensations. So they have a lot of different levels going for them, I feel. Hashtag where is Yui? Thank you for bringing that up, man. I totally forgot that maybe not Baby Metal right now because they have the whole Yui nonsense going on, and I feel that might have irreparably damaged their standing in the pop world.
It can be fixed.
I don't know about that.
That can be fixed. Yeah, the problem here, and I know you're trying to get into your topic, but I mean, just to give you a little precursor here, one of the problems with J-pop, or rather the differences with J-pop is as far as like arena tours and stuff. Now, you mentioned Dice a couple years back when we talked to Dice, and one of their questions, I don't remember what we had asked them, but they said they wanted to be as big as K-pop is in America. And the issue here is, like I said earlier about Baby Metal, they haven't tried.
Yeah. One of the I don't know how I didn't even mention this. One of the biggest differences I feel, that we can all agree on, I'm sure, is that K-pop by its nature, South Korea is not a small music market by any means, by any stretch of the terms, but they are comparatively small compared to the U.S. and Japan. Japan's the second biggest music market in the world. U.S. is obviously the first, and I think that's both followed by Great Britain and so on. To be honest, I'm not sure where it goes beyond the third. So South Korea, I'm sure, is in the top 10. I just would think so, but because of that, a lot of Korean music has to be exported to be commercially viable, which is actually, I feel, a big point that intertwines into everything else we're talking about tonight. The fact that they have to be export friendly, whereas J-pop, a lot of it, be it idols, be it's honestly, you get it most with pop. Like, who knows who Mr. Children is in the U.S.? Who knows who Bees is? Like the real big groups.
South
in
Korea is sixth.
Oh, so there you go.
But there's like a big drop. Like, Japan is in U.S. dollars $2,727.5 million, and South Korea is $494 million. So there's like a big difference.
So we're talking like almost a fifth of like the Japanese music market there. But yeah. That's
But interestingly enough, what I'm looking at right now, it shows the how much of it is digital, how much of it is physical. In the United States, it's 15% physical and 75% digital. South Korea is 37% physical and 59% digital. That doesn't equal 100.
I know exactly. None of them do, but okay, go on.
And then Japan is 72% physical and 21% digital. So Japan, and that's also does not equal 100. But so like Japan really is that's the difference right there. Is
they're selling
physical,
CDs
but that's probably because of AKP.
Yeah, exactly.
To go off of what she said, I mean, having been to both of these countries too, remember that in Korea, you have to get into some of these fan signs and concerts and stuff, you actually have to buy the physical album. You can't just buy the digital copy. But also in Japan, I did notice this is a country where Tower Records is still the number one record dealer ever.
And it's crazy. Like, I go and I still buy CDs there. It's like I wouldn't even consider buying a CD for someone here. Like, even if I really love them, I'd probably be like, what's the point? Also, because even if you buy a CD here, usually it's pretty subpar in terms of its quality, because they assume no one's gonna buy it. But you buy CDs there, sometimes they still have special editions, stuff like that. Obviously, that's not always the case. A lot of times they're still kind of subpar. Just get your money. Buy 18 versions of our single. I've bought.
They kill me with that.
Yeah,
it's like Japanese people. They sell all these like really thin CDs. So
Yes.
It's easier to get a bunch of them. I have a good comparison. Like, this is like a Koto CD. Wait, I can't even see myself. And it's like really thin. They come in like 30 different versions. This is like not very. I mean, there's other ones that are bigger. This is a Red Velvet CD.
Oh yeah.
And it comes, and it's like thick, and it comes with like stuff. And
it comes with a photo card, and some other stuff.
Buying 20 of this would be such a hassle versus buying like a billion of these is like, oh, I'm just gonna keep them in and then pass them out later or something.
Yeah, and then case in point.
Part of that difference, though, I'm sorry, you might have said this though. Just for that comparison, is that Koto is like still indie, and Red Velvet is like huge.
But still in Japan,
they're still small.
They're all thin, yeah. Then even like if it's like an album, it's like this, not like this,
Yeah.
And not to riff on the Koto thing, but this is one of her singles, and this is like all 7 versions of it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah,
And that's a soloist.
Yeah, this is soloist. This is one of her singles. So yeah, that's one.
Wait a minute.
Single.
I gotta interrupt you there. Did you say that's one single?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
see, each version has a different
so
song.
like, there's one track on that. There's one
Oh,
track on
there's
that
two.
CD.
There's two.
Oh, no.
There's
Yeah.
2 tracks on that CD.
There's two.
Yeah.
And each second track
I mean,
is
I'm not
different.
gonna say that Korea's not guilty of doing that. They are. They totally are.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they do.
but anyway, CD culture.
Oh, I have another interesting thing to report. So I'm looking at Wikipedia basically, and it has data down to 2004. So back in 2004, Japan and the United States are still number 1 and number 2. South Korea is 28.
Oh, so it's jumped up crazy.
This is what I was talking about.
29th, United States and Japan first, and then 29th, United States and Japan first. Interestingly enough, in what year was it? In 2010, Japan actually surpassed the U.S.
Oh shit.
For retail value, and number of singles, but then, so 2010, South Korea is 21st, and in 2011 they're 11th. So that's a big jump. And then they kind of have just consistently been going up ever since. And let me check something real quick.
It's crazy.
I'm gonna check when a specific song came out, because I think that song might actually be why.
Japan being first.
Talking about Gangnam Style.
Yeah, I'm trying
Oh
to see.
yeah, that's
2010, 2011.
No, Gangnam Style came out 2 years later. So no, never mind. It wasn't Gangnam Style.
I was thinking that too. When you
that
started
really
going
boomed
down
it.
that route, I'm
What
like,
was it?
Who knows? It's
Wait
like
a minute. Was it the G era?
I was about to
was
say
pretty
that could be about
popular,
G.
too.
G is a little earlier, isn't it?
You think? That's about I think right for G.
Yeah, but it went viral over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, years later.
I remember that was remember that old man version. I think that was the very first time I'd ever heard like proper K-pop, I guess. I mean, remember like outside of a drama, because I'd seen some dramas like at conventions like for a few years before. Like I think I found out about CN Blue and FT Island through You're Beautiful, or that one drama where they're both in it. Lee Hong Ki
drama
and
was very popular.
oh yeah,
with Japanese.
G did come out in 2009, so that could have been it. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I know exactly what it is, but it just like something happened around 2010 that just made K-pop explode.
Well, you remember Manuel? Do you remember? What was it? Inflow came to Anime Expo.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
There's a little Twitter incident, and I don't know how well known it is, but one of the members of Inflow, and I like to skate on thin ice on this one because we did interview some of these people, but there was a Twitter rant. They went on a Twitter rant, and basically they said expletive JPop. And the reason why they said it, they clarified. They said they basically missed the boat, like as far as getting popular.
Yeah, that sounds pretty true, to be honest. I don't know. This topic's pretty interesting. I want to look more into these numbers, and like, it's insane. But anyway, let's move on to the first of our gigantic topics of the night. HyunA and E'Dawn. First of all, I'm saying those right? Because I've never actually. I don't think I've ever said either name out loud in my life.
Technically, it is HyunA, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Whatever.
Yeah,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Then it's whatever. Okay.
We all mispronounced this.
So,
Just
okay,
don't be
that's
like,
fine.
"Oh,
That's
I won't
fine.
even say it."
I'm always like not like worried about this kind of stuff. It's not crazy, but yeah, because I know someone in like. Whenever we talk about Produce48, for example, we get a ton of views in our podcast, and I'm pretty sure once I put in BTS, E'Dawn, HyunA, all the buzzwords,
go.
yeah, it's gonna we're
Especially
actually
since BTS is currently on
Exactly.
tour.
yes.
Can I say one thing about K-pop and the Western music scene
Yes, go ahead.
first before we move on?
Yes.
Well, one thing that I think, obviously, there's the the promotions and stuff, and I think that really helps. But I think a lot of it also is the American music scene right now is very hip hop oriented. Yeah. Obviously, you could find every genre, but what's popular on the radio, what's popular like with the average person is like hip hop and that kind of thing. And I feel like that's also it's people when they say they don't like K-pop or J-pop, I'm like, well, how? Because it's literally you could find K-pop or J-pop in any genre, but they're just thinking of what's the popular. So J-pop tends to be more like bubblegummy, more cutesy, and that's kind of like the image that it's given as a whole, like its face image. Whereas hip hop is like it's sexier a lot of the time. There's like it's more hip hoppy, and I think it matches what is popular in America a little bit closer, and I think that's part of why it draws some more people in, because it's more similar to what they're hearing on the radio here. Whereas, so it's more. I think the biggest difference, honestly, between J-pop and K-pop is just the genre that's the most popular. Yeah. Because you're gonna find songs that are super like cutesy and whatever in K-pop, and you're gonna find songs that are hip hoppy or sexy or whatever in J-pop. It's just not like the biggest thing.
Fun fact, I don't know if any of you have seen that movie Miss Granny. Not sure what its Korean title is, but it's that one where like the old lady becomes young or something like that. I don't remember the whole plot that well. All I remember was that she becomes like a music star. It's an amazing movie. You should watch it. I know the U.S. title is Miss Granny. I'm not sure what the Korean title is, but it's an amazing movie. But there's a scene towards the end where they go to this music show, and there's a metal band, and that was the first time I even knew that Korea had metal bands. And yeah, and I mean an actual metal band, like, you know, with a screaming vocal, not like death vocals, but like, you know, kind of an 80s style, like that kind of metal band, like a glamish metal band. But still, it was really cool. I was like, oh my god, Korea has like, I didn't think, because to me, like as the casual outsider, to me, like to go with what Molly said, that's always I bring this up, is that in my head, you know, K-pop, Korean music in general is just like K-pop. It's just K-pop. But obviously there's a lot of every other genre is there. Let's be real. I'm pretty sure there's like Korean punk if we really looked, or if we lived in Korea. There is. Yeah, but obviously we're not going to see that here. It's probably, well, it's not probably, I'm sure it's just domestic for the sake of, you know, it's a niche. It's niche here, so of course it's gonna be niche there, and we're just not gonna see as much of it, you know, unless you go out. They've actually got their own alternative scene too. Yeah. I interviewed a band called Marmello while I was over there. They're very alternative, and then of course there's the Rose. There's Day 6. Yeah. I would not call Day 6 pop at all. Oh. They're like the more like mainstream side of it. Yeah. Like you'll still see their name pop up, but you won't probably listen to them because you'll listen to them and be like, why aren't they dancing? And then you'll like not watch it. Yeah. Most K-pop fans will be like, they're not dancing. And then they just click off of the video.
I think also what a lot of people do is they use like the terms K-pop and J-pop like to just be the entire music industry. Exactly. Instead of just pop. Like that's kind of what I was talking about, where like just for simplicity's sake, like saying K-pop, I think a lot of people in America just would use that for any Korean music act. All of them. It's just Korean music is K-pop. And same with J-pop. Exactly. If anyone knows in like YouTube or whatever who that band, I'll probably be able to find it later on, and I'll maybe have a link to it. But who knows who that band is from Miss Granny, let me know. And I'm really curious about it. I think even at the time I tried to look them up and there wasn't much, but that was like 5+ years ago at least, I'm sure. Anyway, HyunA and E'Dawn. Let me mark my little time thingy here. Okay, so HyunA's a soloist. E'Dawn, of course, is in Pentagon. Fun fact, I only know, I mention this all the time, but I only knew of Pentagon because there's a Visual K, you know, group in Japan called Pentagon that have to call themselves Pentagon Japan outside of Japan because of this K-pop group called Pentagon. I said Pentagon way too many times in that sentence. But if you go to our site, if you go to ADJ Connections and look up Pentagon, you'll see we interviewed
that Pentagon, the Japanese Pentagon.
The hits must be amazing on
Yeah,
that.
no, it's funny you bring that up because like even when you look up, like I don't think you're able to find like if you type in Pentagon, I think they come up more than the Pentagon. You know, like if you just type in Pentagon, you'll get this group in Google before you get like a picture.
Pentagon has a Korean name.
I know, I wonder that too. But yeah, so
For
Pentagon.
For Pentagon?
Yeah, if they have a
Pentagon's
Korean.
just Pentagon.
Oh, it's just
The
Pentagon.
first thing that shows up when I look up the Pentagon,
Is the building?
or when I look up the word Pentagon, is the building. Yeah.
I wonder.
But then the second thing is the South Korean band.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say. I was about to say Google does, like do preferential thingies. So like it probably knows that like this guy's probably looking up music. But yeah, so but yeah, because don't get me wrong, the building is there in my search results, but Pentagon is the. But I remember getting the group when I was first looking for them. But anyway, so last month, they announced HyunA and E'Dawn announced they were dating, and apparently they've been dating for 2 years, which I thought was interesting. Now, I'm gonna preface everything I'm about to say, and if you guys disagree, then feel free to disagree with me. But I'm pretty sure we're all on the same boat that it's totally fine if they're gonna date, right?
I'm going to get. Am I allowed to get vulgar on here?
Yes, you are. We're actually not monetizing YouTube anyway, so feel free to curse or get crazy or whatever.
This is getting to be fucking ridiculous, and I'm not just saying this as a HyunA fan, a longtime HyunA fan. She's always been my bias. I have always stand HyunA. Back in 4 Minute, back in her Wonder Girls days. This is fucking ridiculous. Okay, the girl is 11-year employee of Cube. She stuck with them even after the disbandment of 4 Minute. She took the blame for the disbandment of 4 Minute by many K netizens. She's been sexualized since a young age. I mean, she's mentioned in multiple interviews she doesn't really have time to date, and she finally finds somebody that she can vibe with, and Cube wants to deny their dating, and HyunA, who is very honest to her fans and very interactive with her fans, is like, no, we're dating. I can't look my fans straight in the face and say this. She doesn't want to lie to her fans. She's been with the company 11 years. She's 26 years old. That's a grown-ass woman. Let her do what she wants. She carries your company. I'm going to be honest. She carries your company, okay?
She pays your bills.
She
She
pays
pays your bills.
There was like a whole thing where someone made like a fake SMS post
Saw
or
that.
something, and it was like, like, oh, sorry, you can have your company back, like Cube said that or whatever, and then HyunA was like, no, you can have someone else pay your bills. So I like, I'm out. But I think it's not the HyunA side, because like once you go and you're in K-pop for such a long time and you start dating someone, it's not a big deal anymore. But it's more E'Dawn,
I
because
was
they
about
always
to say
say
that
like,
too, yeah.
It
They always
definitely
say-
is the Pentagon fans.
yeah, it's they always say the first 3 years of you being in a group, you shouldn't date. Like you're not allowed to date. Like that's kind of like a not written in the contract, but kind of like a hidden rule. I've seen like other K-pop groups talk about it. Just the first 3 years you try not to date, and then after 3 years you're stabilized and everything, then you're kind of allowed to date. But since this is 2 years ago and Pentagon was around from 2 years ago, so technically they've been dating since they like just came out, and they're still not in their 3-year mark anyways. So it's kind of like Cube's probably like, wow, that's taboo, even though they're technically like, come on, like you can just let HyunA do whatever. But E'Dawn fans are probably like, what is this? He's my man.
They've been horrible to that guy. That poor man. Like honestly, they're just like, hey, they shut down his fan sites. Like not a single HyunA fan site shut down, but like a bunch of his did.
Oh my god. They're like,
So
wow,
horrible.
E'Dawn, the betrayer, he's not gonna be my husband anymore, so
I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast before. I think I've told the story at all, like, in any, except maybe a personal setting with some of you guys. But I'll never forget this. I used to be a big fan of Miyavi when I was younger, and I had a bunch of friends who were too, because, like I know people like VKJ Rock and so on. And I remember when Miyavi announced that he was getting married. Maybe he announced that he was already married. I forget what the story is. And
I remember this.
I remember this.
But there was one.
Yeah.
There was one post I'll never forget from a good friend of mine, mind you, who I knew was a fan, and she basically made this post saying, "I know this was stupid of me, and I know it's stupid of me." But basically, the post was that all that really carried her, like in her life, even, but like in her Miyavi fandom, was her honest belief, her honest, true to God belief that they would meet at a concert and fall in love, and that they date, and that he'd marry her.
What?
This was her legitimate viewpoint in her life. Like, it was a long ass post. I'll never forget this. I was like, "Are you serious?" And people were commenting, of course, "Are you serious?" And she was all like, "Yes, I'm serious. You don't like it, don't talk to me again." So she was actually did very seriously. Like, yeah.
My God.
Mind you, I'm not. I think to be honest, I think because of
Nah,
that,
girl,
I'm
don't
not friends
be
with her anymore.
saying.
But yeah.
But
Go ahead. Molly said Molly had a butt, or somebody had a butt. I don't know.
wait, who were you talking about?
Oh, just a friend of mine. I don't talk. Funny enough, like I don't remember if it was because of that, but
Wait,
I stopped talking to her right
It
after
was
that.
someone. Who did she say she was going to marry? Sorry?
Miyavi, that Miyavi would, like, when he got married, that basically she made this whole post about how her life was over. Definitely her fandom was over.
Yeah, no, I got that. But I mean, I will say, like, that
I hope Miyavi's not
happens-
watching this
I know.
podcast. We know him.
it happens sometimes with American artists too. Like, we know
Oh,
someone that is absolutely convinced that they're going to marry Marilyn Manson.
Oh, I'd like to think that
First
she's
of all,
grown out
why?
of that. FYI, I like to think she's grown out of that. We won't name who, but I guess that is.
Disclaimer: when I say that on the radio, guys, that I'm gonna marry HyunA, I'm joking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I actually don't think I have like that kind. Oh God, I knocked something over. I shouldn't have. But I actually don't have that kind of preference. You know, like with any of at least none of the artists I ever talk about here. That I would like ever say, like, "Oh, I want to marry them," whatever. But even if I did, once again, that's just something you say. It's like, it's not something you. I'm not gonna be so presumptuous. Say I've never said that.
Bro.
But it's not something you like. You really think. But no.
Yeah.
Fun thing that when the HyunA and E'Dawn thing first happened last month. Mind you, like I said, I don't follow K-pop, so all this came through a filtered spectrum of like the Western fans, including you, Sean. But you weren't the only one by far. Everyone I saw was posting about it as if like, "Oh, good for them, good for them. This is awesome. This is great." So I honestly thought that was that, like, everything's different. Like, you know, the I guess, you know, that, and I remember who it was. Somebody even I think it was somebody in like one of our Holo Project groups actually. Somebody was even like, "This is why, like, you know, like K-pop will always be a million times better than idols, Japanese idols, because, you know, they can date and they can announce it and they're fine. Their careers aren't going anywhere." And then this happened, and then I come to find out.
True.
Yeah, then I come to find out that while, and mind you, I do feel, especially in HyunA's case, that a huge chunk, probably the majority of her fans are not in South Korea, but in terms of numbers, not to say that, you know, anything else, but in South Korea there was a huge I guess once again more on E'Dawn, not so much on HyunA, but in South Korea this was a much more negative thing. Like, this wasn't kumbaya, this is why our music's better than Jap. No, it's more like, "Oh hell no," like you guys said already. So I was just so confused by that.
K netizens, or rather, we like to call them K fans, K netizens. They have a very different view on their idols than we do. Also, I mean, I thought about it when I went on air right after that announcement. There's a big age gap between, you know, HyunA fans. Well, for the most part, there's an age gap between HyunA fans and Pentagon fans. Honestly, even though the two idols aren't that far apart in age. Most of HyunA's fans, because of when she debuted, we're all grown. We have our own. Some of us have our own kids now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then you have your Pentagon fans. A wide majority of them, especially in Korea, are teenagers.
Yeah, teenagers.
So
they don't know how to process when their favorite boy is being taken. And then especially because if this is like fresh news, like they just started dating, it's one thing. But since it was hidden, they feel betrayed. Like,
And
to me. They feel entitled.
I feel like,
they know.
well, that's
they don't
what
know.
what Cube, I think, was saying was the reason that they just betrayed their trust. But I'm like, if they had come out with it right when they first started dating too, I don't know if it would have been any better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Pentagon would have been much closer to the
Good.
debut, so it wouldn't. I'm sure it wouldn't have been much better. Probably much worse.
I have a theory on this, and I mean, that means they were definitely dating when. Oh, maybe I better not mention. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mention this. You guys should know that E'Dawn and Hui were actually at HyunA's final date in LA when she did her tour.
Oh.
That means that they were dating then. I'm pretty sure. And I know they were doing because they filmed the first Triple H video actually out in the desert by my high school. I recognize the area, but that's beside the point. I mean, I'm thinking about like how Cube came out and denied it, and then HyunA came out and was like, "I'm not gonna lie to my fans like that." Like, honestly, I don't think it would have been as much of a problem. It's probably still would have been a problem, but wouldn't have been as much of a problem if they just would have kept their mouth shut. If Cube would have just, you know what, we're staying out. YG that thing. We're staying out of. We prefer to stay out of our artists' personal lives.
Exactly. Ed in the chat mentions that. It says sometimes for J-pop dating is held against women more than men. Is K-pop typically more against men dating? I think pretty much yeah, I think it's about the same. It's just like what Tiffany and Sean both said earlier. I think it was Tiffany actually said it about the years in in the industry. That I think it has to do with the fact that Pentagon's a bit newer, and what both of you guys said about their fans are a bit more of the teenage variety, which to like that girl, she wasn't teen. Well, she kind of, I think she might have been, but she wasn't like under 18. But she's probably like 19 or 20. That was the age of even that person from the Miyavi story I told you earlier. So this is that age when I assume, like, not to belittle anyone who is that age, but we've all been young and stupid. So I'm not thinking it's belittling anyone.
I mean,
but that's.
Yeah, just to restate that point. Yeah, HyunA's fans, like, for the most part, if you followed her since debut, more than likely you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you may even have a kid or a wife of your own. So
you can't really be like, I'm gonna marry her.
Yeah, it doesn't bother us as much because, like, I mean, for most of us fans, I'll say this as a huge. I'm HyunA trash, bro. Okay, so I'll say this as that. We wanted her to find somebody.
Exactly.
Like, honestly,
you don't want her to be like single and lonely forever. Come on.
Like, I'm also a huge Bada stan from SES, and Bada, she's like what, 6 or 7 years my senior. That was like my first K-pop crush. Her and Bo were my first K-pop crushes, and it kind of pained me to see Bada back in 2015 before she got married, before she found this guy and got married. It kind of pained me to see, Bada's getting older and she's the only one in SES not dating or married. It was really sad. Like, as her fan, it hurt me.
Yeah.
Boa has a boyfriend, doesn't she? And she's like, well, I don't know how big she is still, but she's like,
no. They broke.
Yeah.
But she was dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went to the army and I guess I guess it fizzled, but. Yeah, she was dating, and yeah.
She's one good example. The probably fans are like, please find someone. We don't want you to be lonely forever.
Well,
it might also, maybe it has to do with the age of the person too.
Yeah. I mean, usually you don't start out really old. You start out really young. So
yeah, most of them they become trainees when they're like 11 or 12. Maybe not most, but like it can be that early.
Yeah.
It would really pain me as a fan if Boa didn't find somebody,
Yeah, she like turns 50 and she's still
she's 50
alone.
and still single. Oh my god, I would be hurt for her.
Yeah, but you know who's really the victim in all this?
Who?
Is because all this fiasco was going on, people were talking about it, and Hui was like the third wheel.
Oh yeah.
My friend made a joke, and he's like, "It's okay, they can still do the group." I'm like, "Is this gonna be him though?" He's like, "Oh no, he can rebrand himself and call him Third Wheel." And I'm like,
"Oh, that's pretty clever, but really bad pun." But no, that's good.
I know. And I'm just like, "Oh, He's the real victim.
For those who don't know, they're talking about the other what's that group called?
The third wheel. We're talking
well,
about
the third wheel. Yeah. But there you go. But anyway, I don't know. Like I've mentioned this before. Like I don't want to like be too like devil's advocate. I can't even say this word right now. Too devil's advocate here, but I've always been in the mindset that it's always hard to judge cultural things, outside of the culture. And I do feel that this is, to a degree, a cultural thing because it exists very strongly, like an Asian pop music. I know. I can't talk today. What is wrong? I mean, the past few minutes. So I always feel that's hard to judge. The dating scandals back and forth. That always happen in the fallouts. I always feel like let them deal with their own things. I know you. It's just always. I always feel it's hard to judge it from Western viewpoint. Also, I always find it hard to. Now, this isn't really the case, but I always like to reiterate this anyway, because people are always like, "Oh, they should be allowed to date. They should be allowed to date." As Tiffany said, if it's not in the contract, it's always an unspoken thing, and to us, it might be unusual. Like I remember reading. I actually didn't use any of the quotes, but I kept mentioning a Cosmo article I read for this one. That in the Cosmo article, they actually said like, "Oh, can you believe they're not allowed to date?" And it's not like to the average normie Western person, that might be a surprise, but to somebody who grew up in South Korea listening to this pop music, someone who grew up in Japan listening to idol music, that is not a surprise. They know that. They've seen the falls from graces, both big and small, probably some that we'll never know about here, that I mean, like, because they're too small to mention to make world news. But yeah, so I always feel it's hard to judge from outside. That said, I don't think nothing's really moved, right, Sean, or even Tiffany? I don't know if either of you heard anything. There's been rumors left and right. Cube took back its thing, and it's like we're still talking about.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, we're talking about.
Basically, just kidding.
You want to know why Cube is talking
because
about it?
Apparently
And I love to be a brutal, honest asshole here. Cube is talking about it because currently they're trading at 2,501 on the Kodas.
And they're like, oh shit.
Their stock is going down. Their stock is dropping faster than a sex worker in Amsterdam, buddy.
Oh, damn. But yeah.
They're talking about it, but basically they're probably trying to convince them to come back. Or like, oh, it's never happened. But there's like a rumor right now that, HyunA's manager took off Cube off of her like profile on some kind of Twitter or something. And then she posted like let's do this together or something like that in the caption, and then the photo was
AOMG.
AOMG, which is J Park's label. So people are thinking maybe she's joining that, but nothing is really.
Wait,
she is close to J Park.
Is that JP?
No, it's not JYP.
No, not JYP. Actually, J Park was booted from JYP.
Yeah, he was booted, and then he went back to States, and then he was like, "No, fuck this! I'm gonna make my own label."
Oh goddamn!
Yeah.
AOMG would probably fit HyunA very well. I mean, not to mention, there's always the close relationship between her and J Park. The video, but also, HyunA wants to improve on her rapping, and like she wants to be this hip hop like goddess and everything. I think she will flirt. If this rumor turns out to be true and she goes to AOMG, man, that is number one, that's street of J Park.
I know.
That is straight up street. Number two, it's the perfect label for her. Like, this is hip hop. AOMG is everything that is not K-pop. Like, if you've ever listened to their stuff, they're very anti-establishment.
Mm-hmm. This is why J Park is really popular in the Western culture. Mm-hmm. Like, Western fans really love J Park, but you don't really hear much of J Park in Korea. And they don't really,
It's really he's popular with the underground scene in Korea. Like, he's on Show Me the Money. Oh, I don't think he was on the last season. I don't remember, but he's on all the hip hop. When you think hip hop, you think of J Park. You think of Zico. Those guys, Daki, Illionaire. Wait a minute, I got to throw up the Illionaire symbol.
So anyhow, move on from that topic. By the way, sorry all my stuff fell. It looked like it was gonna fall, so I tried to like push it back, then it fell. So
That was awesome, dude.
So in case anyone was watching, it's like someone's gonna comment like, "What the hell happened, Manuel?" Yeah, I tried to get it to not to fall, but it fell anyway. Anyway,
If only Manuel fell.
I
That
know
would've been
exactly.
funnier.
And I remember that podcast where I did fall because like I was like leaning back. Anyways, that was pretty fun. 'Cause the backdrop didn't fall, but I did. But anyway, moving on. I think that's it for that topic. It's still developing, so keep an eye on. Even though it's not our type of topic, I will update it when it happens in our fast news section in later podcasts, just for closure. So yeah, the next topic is Produce48 and I Zone.
No, Eyes One. Eyes One.
Actually, let me show
Eyes
the.
one.
I'll just show the
I
the
zone.
eyes- the
12
eye
into
zone.
1, man.
No.
Can I just say though? Remember when I said, "What if it was like IZ?"
You did say that. Wait,
that.
you did say something like that. It's funny because I was thinking about that too. When
Yeah.
you weren't on obviously when we eventually started talking about it, but I was like, I remember thinking like I think Molly had a name like that because for those of you who don't watch this regularly or first time, I'll put a link. I'll find out what actually I know what episode it is. I'll put a link to it below and I'll try to find the timestamp. But we guessed names for the group because they weren't named yet, and Molly did come up. IZAP, was that what it was? You did come up with one that was somewhat similar to what they went with. But I'll go with that first because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like to call them Eyes One. I call them Eye Zone because that's the way, if any casual person, not even a normie, if like I know who they are, but if I just saw it and nobody explained it to me, I would call them Eye Zone. And as far as I'm concerned, in any mainstream thing, you should not have to be explained to how to pronounce a name. I can understand mispronouncing something because it's not your language. Like I was worried about the HyunA and E'Dawn thing earlier, but yeah, like you should be able to know how to say like something simple like that. You were gonna say something, Sean? I don't know if you had like you're trying to interrupt, like not interrupt, but like you had something to interject.
Oh,
okay.
I'm just like,
So for those who don't know, this was a show, but Produce48's a show that this is its fourth season?
Yes.
Third season. Okay.
third season.
Third season. And this season brought in a lot of members from the 48 groups, the Aki-P 48s. Obviously, there's HKT.
They call them the 48 family, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, 48, yeah. So anyway, about to correct me on my 48. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just telling you
kidding.
what the
No, no.
Korean fans were calling it.
I'm just kidding. I know, I'm just kidding. I know what you're doing. I just wanted to. I wanted to argue. We've been so nice to each other. I thought we'd argue. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
You said
I know. I
argue.
actually did say we're not going to argue earlier, but I'm just kidding. But no. So just it's not the part I want to talk about. So we'll rush through this. But there was a voting thing. You could only vote in South Korea. It was a 12-member group. There were no quotas on nationalities. As it turned out, there were 9 Korean members and 3 Japanese members. I wish I had them all noted here. I don't. I don't know a single Korean member's name, but I know it's Han Hitomi, Sakura Miyawaki. Can't remember. It doesn't matter.
Miyawaki.
Yeah, Miyawaki. And I can't remember who the other girl is, and that's the one that.
Nako.
Yeah, that's
Yazuki
Nako.
Exactly. Actually, a lot of people like her, and I actually knew of her before. I just forgot her
I think
name.
she's one of the most popular other than Sakura. Sakura
Yeah.
like always popular, and
Yeah.
Nako just went like
But
yeah.
And so anyhow, so now they exist, and I feel this is the crux of this. I'll ask you, Sean, just right off the bat, how viable do you see them as an active group in South Korea?
How viable do I see them as an active group in
A
South Korea?
consistently active group.
Well,
WANA1 is doing really well. So
yeah.
Well,
but,
they're.
go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
I think the difference between WANA1 doesn't count because boy groups always do better. I feel like in general, like most of them, it's easier for them to do better because fangirls invest more. But for like compared to IOI in Eyes One, might be a little bit more difficult because IOI, I think, they were able to like challenge different genres versus Eyes One supposed to be like a cute group, and then I mean, I think they'll do good, kind of like how Lovelyz or that kind of group does good, but they won't be like viral or they won't be like nations group kind of thing. They'll just be like, oh, they're popular and people will still support them, but it won't be as like big. I feel like that's what I'm worried about. I think
CJ Entertainment has never failed at making a group successful off of one of those
this
shows.
is CJ Entertainment. I
So
actually didn't know
keep
that.
in mind.
except Idol School's group is not very hot.
Idol School became Promise 9, so
Promise 9 is a little shaky in the popularity.
I thought IZ ONE was Cube. Maybe I'm or
No.
I actually thought they were cute too. It's funny you mentioned that. I thought they were cute.
No, I
Also.
thought they were.
No.
not for that.
No.
I do know that
cute.
Cube does represent a couple of the girls, right? Because I could have sworn. I'm not gonna lie. I never heard. I don't know much about these agencies. I know about CJ Entertainment because they have that building in K Town, so I see it all the time. But at least their logo's on a building. I don't know if that's their building. But what was I getting at here? But when I was reading the names off when they first announced it, each of the Korean girls at least had an agency, and I remember reading Cube's name off, and that was the first time I'd ever heard of Cube
I was
Entertainment.
shocked to see that on the premiere episode myself.
But
I was
But
like,
yeah,
Cube
no,
actually has a
that's
trainee?
They're all from different
agencies.
companies.
By the way, I'm probably gonna butcher some of these names, but
None of the top 12 are from Cube.
Oh really?
Yeah,
So where did I hear the
top-
Cube name from?
Yeah.
But
No.
the members are.
Well, I've heard it before. Maybe it was in. I think it was when Molly was reading off some of the top people before
Okay, well,
from a different week.
Cube had one person that was in Produce48, and she was in one of the top 20, but she didn't make it.
That's probably. I think it was during one of our updates.
Who was it?
Oh, hi, Dripping Clam, by the way. Should I have said that? Because I think that might have been a euphemism for something else. But I just wanted to shout out because they talked to the chat. But anyway, so yeah, who was it? We looked that
the
up.
labels. IZ ONE it's formed through CJ,
Yeah.
but the labels are Platus, Stone Music, and
Yeah.
AKS.
AKS,
Pletus and Stone together probably can't fail. I mean, you're asking as far as their viability in South Korea, they're gonna be fine.
My
Yeah,
big
I
issue.
mean,
I don't know if they're gonna go popular like IOI or
Yeah.
101. They probably won't go. We don't need them to go as popular as 101. I
That
mean,
I
I don't
agree.
know if you guys are aware of the stuff that goes down with Wannables,
think-
but we don't want that.
I think it won't be as crazy because obviously 101's a boy group, but they would want to be as successful as IOI because they're going to be around for longer. Because IOI was a year, and people were going nuts for them, and they're like, "Please don't disband." So they're thinking, "Oh, people are going to do the same thing, so we should probably extend it so people will be happier." But I have a bad feeling that if they're not as popular and they're just sitting around for 2.5 years, they're not going to do so well, and it's going to be weird. And I just hope that they give them some quality content. It's not just cutesy things, because then people will be not as inclined to follow them. I don't know.
They're gonna have quality content.
My biggest problem is a scheduling problem. Sorry, I'm just thinking of the Twitch chat. So my biggest problem is a scheduling problem, in my opinion, because of course, like the group kind of debuted a little late. They announced the group, and nothing really happened for about a week or so until the Japanese girls had time to go back, and then they kind of like did all this promotional stuff like really fast. And then the girls went. I mean, by the way, went back to Korea, and then they went back to Japan. And I'm sure I think they're still in Japan right now. So my big thing is, in my opinion, whether I don't know if you guys disagree or not, I feel that this group will eventually mostly become 9 Korean girls who have 3 Japanese girls who occasionally come in here and there when they're able to. Do you guys disagree with that statement?
I don't think
I
that
think-
Stone will do that. Go ahead.
Well, I know IOI had a subgroup that was only 9 of them.
Really? I
or
didn't know
something
that.
like
That
Yeah.
defeats the purpose of this group, though, in my opinion.
Well, I think honestly for IOI, it was kind of like there were some girls that they were in there for popularity, but not necessarily for talent. And the subgroup was kind of like the ones that were really talented. And I feel bad saying that because I actually really like Hyuri, but she was, or not Hyuri, the one that was an actor in IOI, but she'd never sang before or anything like that.
But but you were gonna say, Sean, real fast about like your thought on that, the 9 members versus the 12-member group per se.
12.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, because it's part of the business model. I think CJ and Stone and all of them will probably, and Pletus, they will probably make time for this. I mean, I just don't see. They haven't even started promoting their debut album yet.
Yeah.
At this point, IOI had already dropped the debut trailer.
That's the same thing, because like right now, gosh, I wish I had these numbers here. But obviously, Sakura for sure has like a crazy AKB schedule because they're in the middle of their like Senbatsu single, like Sentimental Train and whatnot. So I'm pretty sure for AKS that's the focus. But
I feel like also Aki-P he's smart. He knows that this could help promote AKB in Japan. So
that's the thing, though. That actually is my next point.
And we don't know what their contracts say.
Yeah, that's actually my
the contracts might say that they have to put this first.
I have no idea how this was like. Do you know, Tiffany, how this was received in Japan? I don't know. But what I do know is that how actually I didn't tell you guys did I say it on the podcast? I did say it on the podcast. You know how I mentioned earlier about that K-pop becoming the J-pop fan becoming a K-pop fan, and so on. The only people I know who watch Produce48, and don't get me wrong, it was a lot of people, are the people who are also K-pop fans, or more greatly so, to be honest, the people who were just K-pop fans. I don't know anyone who are pure AKB48 fans or pure Idol fans who watch Produce48. Like, I'm probably the only one.
Because they didn't know how to get it.
Exactly. That could be it too. Well, you slowly became, after, I saw to be real, even myself, I watched the first episode and I'm like, this is kind of this isn't my cup of tea, at all. So I kind of just dropped in.
Man.
I dropped in every so often to keep up with it. Literally, I kept up with it as I needed to. We're talking about it tomorrow. Let me scrub through a few episodes. I'll watch it, but I'll drag the thing across to some of the key moments. And let me go over some of the people. I watched a couple videos. People reviewed it. Then I read a few articles and I took notes from there. But my point
people don't really want to watch it if they're J-pop fans because they knew it was going to be a K-pop format.
Exactly.
And most of the songs
Korean.
are K-pop songs, So if you don't like K-pop and their songs, you're not going to watch it and be like, oh, but I love AKB most of the times. They're going to be like, but I don't want them to sing K-pop songs, or I don't want them to be forming into more K-pop style, they probably don't like that kind of thing anyways. That's probably why a lot of people didn't go into watching. J-pop fans didn't go, oh, I'm going to watch it anyways,
I think that for the pure AKB J-pop fan, that first episode, those first 2 episodes might have been a little painful for your behind.
They probably were mad. They were like, how dare you call
them.
Yeah.
But you know what? And I'm not just saying this as somebody like I said, we're on both sides of the field here. She had legit reason to light into them because we're trying to market you. Think about it this way: we're trying to market you in both South Korea and Japan, and outside of Asia. I need something I can work with, and Honki from FT Island is explaining to them some of the cultural differences, and you really see it. I think it was great for somebody who's purely on one side of the fence too, to see the differences between J-pop and K-pop. The girls in J-pop don't train and dance like K-pop idols. They're dancing. Even at Mama Japan, one of the things that me and my friend pointed out was when IOI went on stage and when AKB went on stage, the dance moves were much more sharp from IOI.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good reality check, I think.
Yes.
Because it's not that I'm saying that Japanese idols need to be that trained. Like if Japan likes it that way and whatever, it's fine. But I mean, you can't expect, people to just be okay with it too. Oh, it's okay. They're Japanese, so they're gonna be bad at dancing or they're bad at singing or whatever. We'll deal with it. Like, it's not gonna happen like that. So
Like
The three girls they chose, though, are all, at least, like, Nako's a really good singer, Sakura's pretty well-rounded, and Hitomi is also a pretty good singer. So it's like, they're not the ones that weren't good.
yeah, the people that got the people that were like staying in the top ranks were either, I mean, Japanese girls, or either girls that got some editing and people saw them a lot, so they voted for them, or they realized that they were improving a lot. I mean, other than Sakura's always just there, but like, everyone else, they saw.
Hitomi shocked me.
Yeah, that actually, I mentioned this before, like in
I'm
other
sorry to
podcasts.
interrupt.
Like, I never actually.
Hitomi blew me away.
I had heard her name in like Senbatsu countdowns in my my over the past couple years, but I had no idea who she was until Produce48. That was the first time I'd ever really like experienced her, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Who's she? And
Pause right there, Manuel, and that I think that's one of the marketing points too. These are, did you notice? Aside from Sakura, these are the girls that don't really do so well in Sanbatsu.
Yeah.
They get passed over, and like honestly, like watching Hitomi on Produce48, she's got a voice.
Honestly, if Sakura wasn't in the lineup, and that's why I keep mentioning her, if she wasn't in this lineup, I don't really think the problems I mentioned earlier would exist. It's because Sakura is there that I feel there's a scheduling issue I mentioned a couple times already. But I don't
Agreed.
know.
Yeah.
Like Sean said, they should have debuted already, or at least announced more things. Not so much that they debuted. They have debuted, I guess, but they should have they should be more along the road by this point, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I feel like IOI only had a year to do everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
maybe they're just taking
yeah.
their time. They're not so rushed.
Everything takes like twice as long with them.
Oh my god, it's gonna be like one single or one album
Exactly.
per
Here's
year.
the deal. We know they're the headline. We know they're going to be one of the headliners at Mama Japan.
That I do
Well,
see.
I hope so.
That is a given.
That
hope
I
so.
see.
That'd be so weird if they didn't. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Real fast before we start moving on, there was actually some of them I think are more than rumors, but there's all sorts of rumors about some of the other non-winning girls getting headhunted by Korean agencies.
Oh yeah.
I can see that happening.
I
They're
can't.
saying that
Go ahead.
people are getting JYP wants to make a Japanese group, so they're taking a bunch of girls. Not sure how good that's gonna be because they haven't made their other girl group they're talking about. And they did waste Somi, which is the winner of Produce 101 season 1. And she just kind of sat around forever and they didn't do anything. And she's
she
like,
left.
"Fuck this," and quit. So, not sure if that's a good option. They're also saying that they might do an Idol School 48. An Idol School is like a Produce 101, except that all the girls aren't in any companies. They're all no company. They're just free. And then they all do the same kind of thing, competing and whatever, without their formal training or whatever like that. And they're thinking of doing 48, so they might just pop them back in there. I don't know.
One of the girls from the 48 family immediately announced her graduation
she
following Produce 48.
Do you know what that is?
Who was it?
Miyu.
Miyu.
Takeuchi
My
Miyu?
save.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Miyu, Takeuchi Miyu, I think. I remember we announced that too, and it's funny because at the time I was even I don't know about that one. That one could be because the rumor is that she's one of the ones who got headhunted or whatever,
Headhunted.
or she's going to greener pastures maybe on her own. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? Sorry, I kicked some. I should have really cleaned up my floor before I did this. But anyways, go on.
After being on TV like that, that's something she didn't really get in Japan. It would not surprise me at all if somebody's agency is headhunting her. It would not surprise me at all if JYP was headhunting her or one of the smaller groups, maybe even what is it? Pledis? Who's Gugudon under?
Oh, Jellyfish.
Yeah, would not surprise me if she was getting headhunted by Jellyfish or anybody. Remember,
I
like
hope
you
Sai
said,
does. I love Sai.
Yeah.
I'm sad she didn't. Sai, she was my favorite. She didn't make it to the top 20.
like JYP has not finished that girl group, and he's been saying he's gonna do it for years. What if it is one that includes a whole J line?
They have twice right now, though, so I think they're doing okay.
Yeah. That's why I couldn't understand why he was making another girl group. But then I remember back when his company got big, I mean, it was Wonder Girls and Miss A. There was always a second group.
That's true. But I personally want Miu to be like a soloist and not in a group, because she's really good at singing, but she has a hard time doing like the vigorous dances and singing. She's really good at like ballads. So if she's like, there's an artist in K-pop, and her name's like Haze, or like
Haze is extremely good at ballads.
Yeah, she's very good at ballads, but she's not like a dancing type.
No.
She's like that.
She tried to rap too on Unpretty Rap Star, and ooh, I'm not okay. Disclaimer: I like Haze. All right, for the record.
No, I have sirens in my background.
Ooh, I gotta move outside because they close in 6 minutes.
Oh.
I gotta move outside, so just that's gonna be funny.
There we go.
How much battery do I have? Hold on. All right, so don't mind the pardon my dust.
Okay.
I'm just gonna move the computer outside.
Well, let's start wrapping this topic up anyway. My last little point for this whole thing is I feel this whole thing would have been done better if this was a Japanese only group. If this was a new group, not so much. Let's throw in some established 48G members, along with some new Korean members. That's my thoughts on that. So,
I just want to say one thing that bugs me about IZ ONE. What was her name? Or I is one, whatever it's called. So I feel like both seasons had a girl that like did not know what the heck she was doing at the beginning.
Yeah, like a Sohee.
Yeah, so I like Sohee though, because Sohee tried so hard and Sohee actually did improve.
She's so good. I like her. She's so pure.
But then, what's her name from this season?
A couple of them.
But it was
mostly Hyun, Minju. There's a lot of them.
But like, HyunA was like known for being bad, and she like never really got better. Like,
no, I mean, I think people just liked her because of what she ended up doing, because she wasn't supposed to be a rapper, but they forced her, and then she kind of took on the role and even did leader and whatever, and they were like, oh, she has such a she's very open and whatever, so people liked her from there, and then they kind of remembered her because her face is very memorable. She has like deer in the headlights look that just people remember, and that's probably why people were like, I'll vote for her, I root her on. But then, but skills. What is skills?
Oops.
But this group isn't really skill oriented. Like IOI had a good balance of like they had good singers, they had some rappers, they had some dancers, they had some visuals, and then IZ ONE is like they're cute, they sing cute. There's like a couple of dancers. One of them's tall. Like the appeals are not very. There's not really like a super strong singer. I mean, they're okay at singing. They don't have like a ton of dancers that are like really powerful. And then a couple of these girls, people are like, why are they in here? What are they doing here?
I really like Wonyoung though. I think she's adorable.
She's like one of the more controversial picks because people don't really understand. I mean, some people are like, she's really cute. And other people are like, okay, but what is there other than cute to her? Like, she's okay with everything, but she's not, like, that great at singing or dancing. She's just normal. And people are like, why is she number one? Like, I don't understand why she was top compared to number 2, which is Sakura, which, everyone already knew she could be in the top.
Yeah.
But
She had charisma or whatever.
Taeyeon, I'm so happy for Cheon.
So
For who?
The one that was on 16.
Cheon.
So
Yeah, she's the actual skills person.
So on that note, now that Sean's a bit more situated, let's move. Actually, it's funny because I kind of zoned out for a minute there because I was like, my phone froze. I had to restart it, but totally unrelated. But I kind of zoned out there for a second. So sorry for that too. But they had we were on topic anyway. It just sounded like I was on topic when it kept coming to. So next topic and the last topic for the night before we wrap this up is the crazy one. So BTS and Yasushi Akimoto, aka Aki-P. I want to point that out now because I don't think I've seen any Korean fans, netizens, if you will. I'd never use that term, but I'm using it there because people do use netizens. But you see that all the time in the K-pop world. But I've never seen them use the term Aki-P, but that's the way he's usually referred to, like in the AKB fandom, the idol fandom. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Whenever I say Aki-P, or whenever any of us say Aki-P, we're referring to Akimoto Yasushi. And also that's a longer name to say, so I'm not doing that. But so TLDR, BTS, who are like soaring the world right now, so to speak. I don't think they're the biggest Korean act in Korea, of course, but like worldwide they kind of are at the moment. And
there was a time that BTS wasn't even popular.
Exactly.
In Korea.
It's crazy because like I actually, once again, through my foreign fan lens filter thing, I thought they were the biggest act in Korea right now, but I'm like, oh, they're not, and I was really surprised. And yeah, not even close. I think that the top, I don't know who the top one is right now. I think it's like TV. What's that group called? It's a bunch of letters.
TVXQ.
Yeah, is that who it is, or is that the ones who are at the top?
Wait,
They just got
right
back
now?
off of their enlistment.
Really?
Wait,
I don't
right
know.
now?
Yeah, somebody look
Yeah,
into
like
that.
right. I think Manuel means right now.
Yeah, right now.
I don't think TVXQ is on top.
Oh
No,
well, it doesn't matter.
TVXQ is definitely not on top.
Well, okay, well, Manuel doesn't know what he's talking about anyway. I shouldn't have quoted a group, but my point is, they're not. It's not BTS. I'm off topic anyway. So they're really popular around the world. So they're gonna release a Japanese album in November. I don't know if that album's also has the same title as, I don't know what the title of the album is. Doesn't really matter. But in the album was gonna be a song called Bird. Fun fact, I remember, like, we mentioned this in our chats, and Heidi came in our chat and she was joking about, like, oh, plot twist, it's the AKB48 song Bird. I think it is, by the way. I think it is. Like, I forgot, and I forgot that was a song, but I think it is that song, like a song from like 2010 or 2009. And people were like, I read it somewhere else a bit more officially that I think it was that song. That it's funny because I thought she was just joking. Maybe she knew and she was, or I don't know. Anyway, apparently it is that song. But Akimoto Yasushi wrote the lyrics. Aki-P wrote the lyrics, and as he does sell like all the 48 group songs, and the internet went up in arms.
Okay, netizens went ape shit.
Oh God. Suppose like I'll be like, maybe I'm just reading too many English comments from the Korean fans, but I don't know how separate this is, but I will say that it has to be pretty separate because some of the stuff that was said was very Korea specific. Before we get into the crazier, the direct allegations, basically the idea was that he's right wing. Direct quotes, and I use that because that's the one term that's been repeated the whole time across, that he's right wing and writes misogynistic lyrics and has anti-Korean imagery in past AKB48, or to be more accurate, 48 group music and videos and whatnot. So this is a lot to pick apart. I'm going to start with, actually, I forgot about this until later, but I'm going to start with this. Did anyone read the open letter, like the manifesto? I call it the manifesto because it sounded like one. Did anyone read the open letter that was given to Big Hit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Half of it, and I'm not exaggerating, a good chunk of it went on and on about the war, went on and on about World War II, and
that's still a sensitive topic to Koreans. I mean,
no, actually, this is not only is it a sensitive topic to Koreans, this topic, period. So I know that I'm going to try to like deal with this with, a level of respect, obviously, as it deserves. So I'm gonna, if I misspeak, try not to take me out of context, because I don't want to, I don't want people to hate us more than they do sometimes. So I'm gonna tread some very dangerous waters with what I'm about to say next.
My God.
Yeah, I understand that it's of course a sensitive issue in Asia, relation to these countries, but my big problem with this whole thing is, why did their manifesto, their open letter, I'll stop calling it that because people are going to quote me and they're going to be like, oh, he's already against it. Why did their open letter start with so much World War II references when we're talking about pop music? And we're talking about a man who I am positive, not even like I don't think he did. No, I'm positive he had nothing to do with World War II, period. I don't know, somebody can dig up like a family tree about like maybe like his great grandfather like worked in a factory or something. I mean, who knows?
If that was the case, every Japanese person has been.
Exactly.
I have been
Exactly.
I am very anti-Korean.
Exactly.
I was part of that war. I am the bloodline or something.
And I also do know that it's a long-running thing, because I have studied, like, this isn't even an Asian history thing. Like, Japan and Korea have had a tumultuous history throughout history. That wasn't the first time Japan invaded Korea. It happened several other times. That wasn't the first time Japan occupied Korea for an extended period of time. But I really had to stop and be like, okay, this is pop music. This is a producer. This is Aki-P. It's like, what does any of this have to do with World War II? And even the Metro UK article, which is what I used for a lot of this, because that was, I'll get to that in a second, but that was the article I used for a lot of my research. Even that article had to start their thing about why people were against Aki-P, and they had to start it with like, well, during World War II, Japan invaded Korea. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. That really has nothing to, I mean, I guess it does, because that's why the Korean fans are upset. But beyond them being upset because of that has nothing to do with anything. BTS wasn't involved in it. AKB48 wasn't involved with it. Aki-P wasn't involved with it.
Have you ever seen an African American get upset about slavery?
Yes.
But the difference between this and like being mad about the war in general is that where was this upset, like, oh, we shouldn't let them do the, collaborate with Japanese people for Produce48. Why are they shouldn't be, the BTS fans should be mad that BTS is going to Japan because they're in Japan Air.
This wasn't their first Japanese album.
Fans. There's gonna be they have Japanese lyrics.
They have several Japanese fans.
They have Japanese original songs that they use in Japanese dramas. Like, I get it if they don't like Japan, because, past things, and I get that a lot from Koreans. But if that was the case, then you should hate on everything that happens Japan related. Don't be suddenly, this one guy is a warlord or something. Yeah, like, they're all bad then, right? Like, Produce48 should have been a riot. That's a bunch of Japanese people. That was partially led by Aki-P. Like, he had some kind of, he's had a say in it, and he's still going to have a say in this group. So
he even received an award from CJ&E at Mama last year.
Exactly. Yeah, I put that in my notes. He won an award last year.
Does that mean the fans are already really mad, or did they not know he's Japanese, or did they not realize?
Honestly,
it's just like, now?
The more popular your group becomes, sometimes the more hardline fans you get. Mm-hmm. I mean, BTS has fans from every generation. I don't know for sure, but I would not be surprised at all if those comments, in fact, came from an older generation of fans.
I don't think the younger generation, well, I'm not saying all of the younger generation is more forward, and they're not, they're a little bit more forgiving, at least in my personal experience. But there's also people that get very influenced by the older generation. They hear things, they hear from the parents, they hear from their grandparents, and they go, yeah, Japanese people are still really bad or evil, or they're still, we can never forgive them because forgetting equals, forgiving, and that means forgetting, so they don't want to forgive. So
I think part of it is, I could be wrong with this. As far as I know, Japan hasn't really ever officially apologized for the stuff that they did during World War II.
Yeah.
And I think that could be a lot of it because, you look at like Germany has more than apologized. It's illegal to say the Holocaust didn't happen there. They're like super apologetic for everything that they did during World War II. The U.S. has like at least kind of sort of apologized. So it's like that could be part of why. Like, I'm not saying that apology would like change anything, but it's more that they're like denying that any of it happened.
It's like a still ongoing argument, which is why people are still sensitive about it. So like, I understand the issues. I
remember reading somewhere that, like, for a while the official statement was that, like, the fact that the Japanese soldiers were going over and like kidnapping and raping Korean and I'm saying Korean specific. I know they did this in other countries as well, but just because we're talking about Korean women, they like said that was like necessary to keep the morale or something like that. Like, that was their reasoning.
Yeah, I mean, whatever bullshit reasoning Japan gave was not a good idea. It's not any good reasoning. But I mean, like, I'm usually like kind of the middle ground because I'm an American person, but I'm also Japanese. But I also like interact with enough Korean people from like either Korean Americans or just Korean people, and so I kind of get like feedback from everyone. But the general consensus is usually the younger Korean people are mad at the government, the Japanese government. They hate the Japanese government. I mean, don't worry, Japanese people kind of also hate the Japanese government, but that's a different story. But then they're like, it's not that we hate the people there, we just hate your government. And I'm like, okay, but some people, they see government and that's just like automatically everyone is shit. Kind of like how some people might see Trump and they'll be like, well, that means everyone is like America, Trump in America.
You'd be surprised how much we get that abroad.
Yeah, so it's like that same sentiment to some people that, they take the time to kind of more understand. They'll be more like, oh, we still like Japan, or we think Japan is okay, but we just don't like your government. But then there's going to be people that are like, oh, we don't like your government and we don't like you, we just don't like you as a whole.
Well, I think also, Manuel, with that letter that you're talking about, what might have happened is that they were just kind of listing off reasons why they didn't like it, and then one of them just struck a chord with that person, and they just kind of went off on it, even though it might not be. Because I think, for me, Aki-P does write, and I understand that some of his lyrics are supposed to be like satirical, or they're like they're supposed to like be raising awareness about issues, but knowing, like, taking them out of context and not knowing that, like, if it's not obviously satire or obviously just raising awareness about the issue and out of context, like, that's still problematic, because you can read these lyrics and be like, whoa, like.
I gotta chime in here. The song, the AKB song Uza, and then there was another one, I can't remember the exact name of it.
Are you talking about the Einstein one? Everyone who has any problem with this whole BTS collaboration always points to, let me get the exact, what is it, Einstein Yori, I don't know her name. Oh, Einstein Yori Diana Agron, who, by the way, talk about jokes. I still don't know who she is. I had to look her up, and even when I saw her, I'm like, who is that? Who is Aki-P even talking about? FYI, she's like on CSI or something. But I'm like, I don't even get, like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, who is this person? Honestly, that's what people should really be asking. Like, I'm pretty sure that song is a joke, for the record, because who is, like, she's not like, I don't want to, I'm not trying to, like, say, anything to say these lyrics are good or anything like that, so don't take me out of context there either. But I'm like, is it a joke? Because Diana Agron is pretty old, as in, like, I think she's like a middle-aged actress. So I don't think this is exactly like meant to be a. She's like in, like she was. Look it up. I'm curious how old. Oh, what happened to Molly's?
She was in Glee.
Are you sure?
Yeah, she's 32.
Molly, where's your camera? You're like screwing up our like overlays.
Oh, I'm not. Oh,
Well, she is pretty. I don't know her
Get
because
it turned
I'm
off.
any American.
So.
Oh wait, is she the cheerleader? No, I don't understand.
she's the cheerleader.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I think I need to call back in because my camera isn't letting me turn it on.
Oh my god. Okay, call back in. Anyway, moving back. Actually, I want to back up a little because I think we're jumping too far ahead to something I want to say earlier. Speaking of that open letter thing, I think, I don't know if I'm right on this, that like basically some very vocal fans, who knows how many, very vocally stated their opinions, and a lot of them had to do with like national issues or national thought. That's actually a better way to put that. And everyone latched onto all of this. And the reason I think this is because we have people, I don't want to name names. I don't know if they're watching. I hope they're not. But if you are, then I still don't take this back. We have people with an A to J who quoted all these things, and I'm going to say what they are, that, they quoted the right-wing stuff. They quoted the song lyrics. They quoted the anti-Korean imagery. And they had no evidence. And I'm like, because the problem was for days, I was reading every tweet, days, it's been like 2 days, but like an entire, for hours to be more accurate, I was reading every damn tweet I could find. And mind you, I wasn't the only one. I didn't tweet to anyone because I'm like, I don't want to get in this. I ain't trying to put my name in this. But there were people asking, like, what evidence? What anti-Korean image? There was more than one who was like, can somebody show me something? Everyone's repeating the same things, but no one's showing anything. And she did it too. Oh, I kind of outed it. But A to J is a lot of girls, so it doesn't matter. And she did it too. It's like, oh my god, it's like you're as bad as they are. It's like you're repeating, and she admitted it too. I'm like, did you know who this person was yesterday? They're like, no, and I'm like, there you go. It's like you're as bad as like the 90% of these outraged Korean fans. Who I wonder, I really want to do like some sort of open survey about how many people in Korea who watched Produce48 knew who Aki-P was, because like, once again, like, I'm not even that I feel they didn't know.
Hold up there, Manuel. AKB had a pretty strong following in Korea.
Well, yeah, not to say they didn't know who he was, but once again, like Tiffany said, why is it now? Why is it this second that suddenly? And by the way, now that we're on that topic, Molly, your camera's still not on, by the way, but
Why?
yeah, I don't know. It's fine. You'll just be a loading circle forever.
Okay, that's fine.
Whatever you did this time, at the very least, it made our boxes straight again. So just leave it like that. It's fine. Now, the two right-wing things they mentioned, by the way, I'm going to show you right now. This is pretty much all that I could find. And I found these through Metro UK, because fucking Metro UK, I can only assume because they're a major outlet, they were the only ones, period. All K-pop, all the other sites, I can't think off the top of my head.
Don't ever trust all K-pop, okay?
Everyone keeps saying that. Everyone keeps saying that.
I have to chime in on behalf of all journalists. Listen, all K-pop, they're a necessary evil, but most of the time they produce shit.
Yeah,
okay?
It's funny because that's what everybody's been telling me, but I only mention them because they're the ones I remember because they're an easy name to remember. But there are several others. No one had sources. Everyone kept, and mind you, even in their comment sections, people were like, "Can you give me sources?" Everyone's talking about this. They were being me, but like, anyways, I can
see the misogynistic accusations. Like, I can see it. I won't take a side on it because like there's this old school AKB song that's about promiscuity. And it's very. Let's just say there are parts of Korea that are in a bit of a midst of a feminist movement right now, and that can be very hurtful.
It's funny.
That particular song is about
Gato Hirari.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Oh my god, you remember it? I can't remember it.
There's actually. It's funny you mentioned that because everyone quoted the Einstein song. By the way, FYI, to explain that a little more, that song has lyrics. Gosh, I wish I wrote them down. But that song has lyrics basically like, "Oh, don't worry about brains, just focus on looks." That's the crux of that whole song.
See, that's what's upsetting them.
But the
Yeah.
funny thing is, and to be fair, full disclosure, that song did have a mild controversy in Japan itself when it was released. So I don't want to, because somebody's probably going to point that out, that like, oh, it's not just them being upset. It's not just them. Sorry, I saw all these comments.
Uza can actually upset. I mean, out of context, Uza could upset somebody too. It's talking about a one night stand.
But there's far worse songs they could have picked. So I just
there really is.
So that's not a defense, but I just found that just goes on. That actually, to be honest, that ties in with what I just said. That nobody's doing research. Everyone's just repeating the same, things that's fed to them. Because honestly, on that front, I will agree with you that they could have dug in way deeper. They if anything, they picked a song that was like what the B side to like HKT. I don't even know what single that was. Anyway, God, what was I saying? Aki-P. I was going to show the things. So Metro UK was the only one that did research and found actual evidence for like his anti-Korean imagery. Now I'm going to show them to you. So I'm going to leave them a bit longer. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to leave them on a bit longer because of the delay and everything like that. But the first one, I don't remember whose jacket this is, but it's a jacket of one of the girls from AKB48. Now I love that I guess there was this part where we zoomed in. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know. I don't think that lyric didn't do anything. It's in the eco. But so anyway, it's a rise. It's not even the traditional rising sun, but it's a rising sun, thing reminiscent of the Japanese. It's not even. I don't think it's even the Japanese imperial flag. I think it's like the Japanese imperial war flag, which is something a lot of people like. Not to get too correct with flags here, but
that'll piss somebody off in Korea.
But now, mind you, this is one member of this. This wasn't even like the outfit they all wore. Damn it, Molly, the swirly thing disappeared. You made our boxes uneven again, but it's fine. Half of Tiffany's walls in Sean's box, and mine's just all darkness. It's fine. But it came back. The swirly thing came back. Okay, are you still there, Molly? Because I actually can't tell if you're.
I am still here.
Okay, feel free to chime in because I feel like
I will. Be right back. I'm gonna be right back.
Now it's the owl.
So So anyway,
before we go, Manuel. I noticed in the notes you mentioned something about JPop Summit. I think it's really important to talk about that after this.
Okay. So anyway, so there's that. I agree that could be, a thing, but let me show you the other one real fast because the other one they're both tied in together because of what they are. So the other one, and this one's a lot less well, I'll get to that in a second. So this is an outfit from Nogizaka 46. Nogizaka? Not Nogizaka. Keyakizaka, sorry. Keyakizaka 46. And it's them wearing uniforms that are somewhat reminiscent of, especially the hats. To be totally honest, I think it's more the hat. Is very reminiscent of an SS, Nazi uniform. Now, that, I'll admit, is a lot more direct. Now, let's take each one of those separately. Real fast, I understand the imagery. Like, it's like the equivalent of seeing... I don't know if it's that strong, but I guess it could be in Korea. It's the equivalent of like seeing like a swastika or something. I don't know if it's that strong, but I think that's the thing they're trying to get across, seeing the imperial flag. But we're talking about something on one member, and then we're talking about this outfit. Now, this is actually not a defense, so it's kind of sound weird that I'm even mentioning it. But for those who don't know, both Nazi looking outfits, SS looking outfits like these, are pretty common in Japanese music, especially in the rock scene, the VK scene. We have a panel, we have an 18+ VK panel where I collected countless pictures of Visual K and J-Rock artists who have worn Nazi-looking outfits. Some were just outright. Some were clearly, mind you, a lot of them were meant to be facetious.
Oh yeah.
Some of them
Visual K?
Yeah. Some of them are meant to be like it. I don't know how to put it. It was, they're not supporting it. It's kind of like meant to be like, we're going to talk crap about Nazis too. But then other ones are like, oh, we're trying to be shocking. You get that everywhere. Anyway.
There was a controversy in K-pop. I do believe, don't quote me on it, I do believe it was Zico had some type of controversial flag on one of his stage outfits or something. But like they quickly, that's another difference between J-pop and K-pop. K-pop will quickly like bury that thing if it happens.
Yeah, to be fair, the Kiyakizaka thing. Well, I don't think anyone noticed the AKB48 thing until now. I think that was just the people really looking. The Kiyakizaka outfit did get some notoriety, and there was call for it to be removed. For the record, not to get off topic here, but there was a group called Kishidan that did like a concert where like half of their outfits were done like in similar like this, like in SS inspired outfits, and they ended up removing an entire DVD because like somebody in the U.S. like the Anti-Defamation League saw it. And Kishidan, for those who don't know, they're a really huge, like, popular rock group. So yeah, it was a pretty big deal. Now, my big problem with both of these pieces of what I'm looking for of evidence is that these are outfits. People like the way people talked about it as if Aki-P had a video, and I don't want to like get too sensational or like make this into a joke, but the way they talked about it was as if Aki-P made a video where like, you know, he's shaking hands with like, you know, Tojo or something, you know. They made it sound as if like it was something crazy, but we're talking about two outfits that, let's be real here, he probably had no hand in designing. I really, 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 really doubt that he sat there and designed those outfits. And that's mainly because the obvious, the obvious fact that
here's the issue at hand here is that currently for Koreans, I again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but for Koreans, this is BTS's popularity is probably one of the biggest things to happen to the Korean music industry. I mean, the boys are at American award shows. They're doing big tours. They're selling out baseball stadiums now. I'm imagining this has to do with image, and I think some of them are, you know, hey, you know what? We don't want their image being tainted by this.
They don't want their image tainted by. Let's be real. It could have been. I mean, they could have been collaborating with someone that wasn't Aki-P, and that was Japanese.
I know, like it
and they would have got upset.
Yeah,
they probably would have still nitpicked at that.
They would have found
and brought anything.
Exactly.
They would have found anything
that was kind of racist or like maybe linked to racism, and they'll be like, "Look, Japanese people being racist. Come on, we can't do this to our boys." So I don't think it's even like I don't even think it's like an Aki-P problem at this point. Like it could have been someone. It could have been like an artist or something. Like it could have been Exile or something.
I know.
Oh, Exile's doing something.
It could have been like. I don't want to speak too much on that. We worked with generations.
So yeah, it could have been some. They would have found something. They would have found those two pictures like they did for Aki-P. They would have found the two pictures and like, mind you, Aki-P did have a huge break in like the 90s. But mind you, Aki-P's been in music production since the 80s. We're talking a career that like is spanning almost 40 years. Over 30 years, definitely. His career has been going on, and all they managed to find were two pictures. And I just find that, like, come on. And let's be real here. That, like I said, and also about the lyrics. This is actually a bit weirder to say, and I don't want to defend the lyrics. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Aki-P has supposedly written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs a year. And to be fair, I think he only writes mostly lyrics, but he's written hundreds of songs a year. Now, it's kind of understood in the Japanese music industry that these producers who write several hundred songs a year don't actually write several hundred songs a year. A lot of times there's ghostwriters. A lot of it is known. Like there were certain writers, like Sunku from Hello Project is a good example, because I remember like the fans always had like, oh, this sounds like a song that so and so wrote, like, you know, one of his rumored ghostwriters that everyone like, you know, suspected. And Aki-P has several as well. But then again, Aki-P writes lyrics, so who knows? That might be a little different. But still, he might not even have written that Einstein song. But then again, he'll never say that because that's like that's the way things go. But I don't know. I just feel that like Tiffany said, they would have found something. This feels like a crazy national issue that I did not know existed, and that I'm just like, I don't want to make light of it, but it's like we're talking pop music here. I don't understand why. Not just politics, but like national.
It's Asia. It's Asia, dude.
Why couldn't they just have wrote in the letter, "We just don't like Japanese people"?
That's
like,
that's the biggest thing, to be honest. Thank
Because
you.
that paints armies as racist.
Exactly.
And none of
Thank
us
you.
want that.
That's the crux of all
I
this.
mean-
Because they're not.
See, Tiffany kind of hit on the nail
Damn it,
there.
if they did that, I'd have been pissed off as an American army.
See, Tiffany pretty much hit when I was trying to like pussyfoot around because I didn't want to be the one who said it. But yeah, it's like that's what I really feel is like this is all like this has nothing to do with Aki-P. This is an anti-Japan thing, and if that's what it is, then just say it. Now, my favorite part before we start kind of because we're actually really like a bit over than I thought we'd be, but we're moving pretty fast. But one of my nice little codas to all of this, by the way, in case you didn't realize what had gone on, that song is never coming out. It was canceled.
Yeah. By the way, that song is gone.
It's just in the recycle bin.
It's like
gone.
And they're replacing
Not
it.
recoverable.
Yeah, they're replacing it with remixes of I don't know, Idol and something else.
They're like,
gonna
oh, we're
give it-
just gonna make a Japanese version of the song
Yeah.
we already have.
It
Yeah.
looks like they're gonna make a Japanese version of Idol. I don't know if they're gonna. I mean, it would be cool if they collaborated with the Japanese Idol for
I
the
really
song Idol.
Oh,
Like
I
they did
no.
with
really
Nicki Minaj,
start all
but-
this all over
They're gonna
again.
bring
That's
in
it.
someone, and then they're gonna be like, "How dare you? This bitch
Round
is
two.
Something," and then we'll be like, "Oh no!" So they should just not.
But my
I was
favorite.
gonna say, yeah, Bird is gone, dude. It's never to be seen again.
No, it's funny.
I think it's funny because I think the netizens are very like anti-Japan, and at least in
Those netizens are
collaborations.
bold behind their damn keyboards.
But-
Okay.
But these companies aren't. You know, like they're trying to collaborate. I mean, they're doing these like Produce48 or
It's about
expanding
money.
Japan.
It's about almighty dollar or yen or won.
They're like, well, we just trying to make our money here, though. What's the problem? And the fans are like,
Not to
look
mention,
here.
not to mention in Korea, the government sees a little bit of that money. Have you ever looked on the back of one of your K-pop CDs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The government gets a cut.
Yeah, this is why K-pop expands to America. They expand to China. They expand to Japan. They make money.
My favorite part,
They
my
do
little
really-
the little coda to this whole story is I don't know how prevalent this was, but I saw it a lot because at this point I was literally following threads because I was waiting for that evidence I mentioned. So I was getting notifications, people were like commenting when it was revealed that Bird's gone, it's done. There were actual commenters, like several dozen different people. There were several people that are like, "That's great! I'm so glad we had made this happen." I still want to hear Bird though. They legit were like, "I
No,
still
you
want to
don't
hear
get-
Bird though."
You don't get
don't-
to listen.
Okay.
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
do
Yeah,
it,
Monster-
Listen to Bird AKB version.
Exactly.
If you
It's like
wanna listen.
I couldn't believe that. I was like,
Congratulations, Bird will now be an iZone song.
exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God.
That's probably what's gonna happen to it.
That's so funny if they released a song on their first debut single.
The debut song is called Bird.
You're like,
Wait a minute here. It'll be like hearing some of Blackpink's first songs and you're thinking, gee, that sounds like that belongs to 21.
I know.
and you're like, that's
But yeah,
Huh.
I couldn't get over that. I'm like, you can't get it both ways. You can't literally try to ban this song, and then when it's actually banned, it's like I kind of want to hear
That is
it.
for another time. That is for another the hypocrisy of some K netizens
Oh yeah,
is a topic for another podcast.
Exactly.
That could be
dude.
a whole podcast.
And
It could be
also-
a whole podcast.
also just to leave it at that, I think that does lend into what we already said, where this had nothing to do with music, had nothing to do with Aki-P, that I think it had a lot to do with a huge like national artist collaborating with like a national enemy. I guess that's what they see it as. I don't know what else to call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at the crux of this whole thing, that's what it was. It had nothing to do with Bird, had nothing to do with Aki-P. It really, because obviously they still want to hear Bird. It's like you literally
Can you imagine if BTS collaborated with anything from Johnny's? The whole freaking world
Oh
would
my
explode.
God. No, I was thinking that too. It's like Aki-P, and that's the other thing. Is like Aki-P's kind of kept. It's like I don't want to say he's like the best person ever. I actually don't like him, by the way. I should have prefaced all this. I don't particularly hate him, but I don't like the guy. I just kind of feel like if you're gonna attack someone, put some evidence forward.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't like him either. So.
But this guy is organizing the entertainment for the Tokyo Olympics of 2020. He's he's literally the biggest producer in Japan. I think he's the biggest producer in the world in terms of like sales and number of top singles, etc., etc. Because it's AKB48. It's crazy. And I think
the Japanese fans also don't like Aki-P.
Yeah,
Anyone that's
to
a
be fair.
BTS fan, I don't think likes AKB very much. And I feel like if the Korean army, they just said like, oh, we think his music is shit. Like Japanese armies would also been like,
yeah, that would have been.
us too. We think that too. And it
I was gonna say Japanese armies probably support that message.
And
Yeah,
to be
it would have
totally
been way easier.
yeah, to be totally fair,
You,
and I
you
also
need to understand, and this is no offense to the two women sitting in this chat room. I mean, you also need to understand that over in Asia, a vast majority of those fans, well, even here, the vast majority of those fans are women.
yeah.
And I was gonna say, and like hearing some of these lyrics from AKB, I don't know, I'd be a little pissed too. Like I said, I mentioned like Uza, I'd be a little pissed too if somebody thought I was only good for a one night stand.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the point they brought up, everyone would have been like, "Yeah, we agree."
That was one of the points.
No,
So-
exactly.
But it wasn't the main point,
Exactly.
which is what's
No,
wrong.
no, not by any means.
Yeah.
I don't
I mean,
think
if they just said that, then it would have been like A-okay, and I've
Yeah.
been like, I agree, but the fact that they like made the whole like big chunk of like
Mhm.
what the war, and it's like, so it's not really about Aki-P, it's just Japanese people. I get it. I get it.
Chicks.
I'm not hurt.
I know,
You know?
exactly.
No, yeah, I mean, oh man, this is a sensitive issue, and it's just
Yeah.
like
And
we-
it's kind of like awkward now for Japanese armies too, because they're now like, oh geez, well, like we like BTS, you know. I feel like they are probably in an awkward situation now because now they know,
when Japanese fans come to a K-pop concert after some of the things that my Japanese co-host at the time would say, oh man, it was just so weird to see Japanese. Sometimes it was so weird to see Japanese fans at an American K-pop concert or at any K-pop concert. Like when I went to Mama Japan, I was shocked to see the Yokohama Arena or the site it was the Saitama Arena like sold out and like full of Japanese people and they're cheering and screaming. I'm like, dude, I wonder, like, as far as sensitive issues go, I'm like, this is probably equal to that of treason.
Yes, I mean, Japanese people are now really, really excited about K-pop. Like, there's so much news about them, so they're always in this like awkward, weird situation of like, but we really like K-pop, but I know they hate us.
There's I just dropped a razor on the floor. Now I'm scared to move. But yeah, like
Why do you just have a razor?
It's complicated. TLDR.
That's weird, man.
Not to get like
That's weird.
I don't like talking about like my own personal life on the podcast, but I'm like in the middle of sort of moving, so I got crap everywhere. So yeah, just random shit, including a razor on my desk, and I dropped it. Now I'm scared to move. I'm not wearing shoes, obviously. I'm like in my house, so I'm scared I'm gonna cut my foot if I move. Anyway, but yeah, like Tiffany said, I kind of have the same. That's my point to all this. It's like if that whole open letter was just about the lyrics, I honestly don't think there was anything I could have said. They would have been like, we would have been reporting on this totally differently. It's like, oh man, got me there, or not got me there, because I wouldn't have cared. I would have been like, yep, there you go. But the fact that it started about the war, and it seems to have been like the big issue was that he was Japanese. I don't know. It's just that's just whatever.
It's Asia.
Anyway,
we'll never. I mean, I just came from
We
Korea,
will never understand.
and it's always a mixed bag. I mean, like I literally stood on a train and I saw a video subbed in English about that controversial island, and I was like, oh wow,
Oh my
this is
God.
awkward.
I own Battleship Island, and I cried. I'm like it's a hit story. I cried. Okay.
oh my
And
god.
it was
that
like
was horrible for me.
it was like the whole video saying like Japan is wrong, and I was like, oh god, I'm American. I'm American. I'm not.
I'm American. I don't know what they're
Japanese,
talking
okay?
about.
Whenever
I
I
did
see,
it really awkwardly.
because I have both Japanese and Korean friends, and I work with both sides of the industry. Whenever I see that Dokdo belongs to Korea thing, I'm just like, oh man, I don't even want to get into that. Like,
Yeah,
and I
that's
watched.
like.
I went with a friend. First, we went to go see Battleship Island, and then I bought it like a fool, knowing how emo I can get over some history movies. I don't know if any of you seen Battleship Island? Like,
No, but I know what you're talking. I know which movie you're talking about. I haven't got around to watch
wow, there's a scene where they reference the comfort women and
Yeah.
the Japanese soldiers raping little girls and whatnot, and it just I don't know how I made it through some of those scenes.
There's
I'm just like, oh
no, there's
Yeah, that's like a whole nother bag you don't want to open.
Yeah, like-
it's an area we don't want to venture. We're Americans, and
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us to understand the Fuhrer with that letter that you're talking about there, Manuel. I mean,
No,
like with if I was Korean American or if I was Korean, I probably would look at it differently. But I think about it like this: we live in a country where African Americans have pretty much forgiven white people for slavery. So I don't know how. I don't think that I could understand the Fuhrer behind it. Honestly, not 100%.
I don't know. It's
Well,
just-
also, I am not saying at all. I just want to reiterate this. I think that slavery was horrible. I don't think that white people deserve to be even
Oh, absolutely.
forgiven for it. But it happened a lot longer ago than World War II.
yeah, that
True.
is that
True.
is
Well, and then there's
Well, but there's
so many issues.
it's
though.
still, like,
we're Americans.
let's not open
There's
that
just-
can of worms, but that's kind of still
too
repercussions
many
of that.
No,
it's
that I
hard
don't
to
know.
repercussions of that. They're still
Manuel.
going
Wait,
on.
can I
No,
just,
that's way-
wait, guys, can I just clarify? I meant like the,
Yeah, I know
like,
what you mean. I know what you
slavery
mean.
as an institution. I am not at all saying that like, oh, slavery was abolished and then like
Everything was
African
peachy.
Americans were suddenly equal. Like, no,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
just-
trying to say that.
I
I
only
just
reason-
meant specifically when it comes to like slavery
Exactly.
as something that was
No,
like
I
legal and like
understand.
an institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no!
No, I,
mean,
only
opened
mentioned that.
it.
I only mentioned that because I just wanted to clarify that. I'm pretty sure that's obviously what you meant, and I wanted to clarify that too. That yes, there is more to. There's more to all of this. It's all really complicated. Like I said, I mentioned this many a time before we started this podcast. That this topic alone, and I think we didn't give it that much justice as far as I'm concerned. We'll probably do another one, then we'll revisit this and we'll talk about it. But I feel that this topic definitely could have been an entire podcast because there's so many levels to it.
It could have.
There are so many
Yeah.
levels to it, and I don't know if
I don't know if I want to be on that podcast. with
exactly
this.
um,
Just this.
because
I don't think I should be on the top because then people will be like, "You're just saying that because Japanese." And I'll
Japanese.
be like, "Oh God, no,
Um,
none
I'll
of
sit
this."
in there as
again."
the moderator, and I'll just start calling over Robert's Rules of Order or something.
no, because there
We
was
would then need a representative of like a Korean person and all
Oh
that
my god!
stuff.
Oh
And,
my god!
yeah. Fun fact.
That would be
oh.
that would be awesome, but like scary at the same time. Oh my, jeez!
It would not be a topic that I'd want to be like,
when we
That's a little
started
scary.
when we started like the outline of this podcast, I thought the HyunA thing was gonna be the I don't think we said this on the pre. I don't think we said it on the podcast yet. But I thought the HyunA thing was going to be the main point of this. I thought that we talk about the HyunA issue, that we compared like the fandom reaction, that be it. But then this broke, and it's just like, oh my god! It's like I don't know if you remember. I forgot about the HyunA thing when you had to remind me about it.
Yeah, I had to remind him.
You had to remind me because actually
also Manuel was very confused at first, like what was going on when the articles came out that armies were not happy about BTS like collaborating with this producer. Like, he did not understand what was going on.
Call me naive, but like I didn't really realize that this anti-Japanese sentiment, because that's what it really is. I'm not gonna. I don't want to like keep pussyfooting around because of time, but I didn't realize this anti-Japanese sentiment was so embedded in like in the culture. I really didn't. I knew it was there. I'm not stupid, but I didn't know it was still this prevalent and like front and center. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's just
still have to deal with it. Still got to deal with it firsthand because I have both sides of Korean people hating me for being Japanese, and then Japanese people hating on Koreans, and I'll be like, please get me out of here. I'm American.
Let's
It's very awkward. It's very awkward when people that I work with like start spouting anti-Japanese rhetoric or anti-Korean rhetoric, and it puts me in an awkward situation where I'm just like, oh man, look, I love you to death, but you cannot be saying that stuff.
Yeah, just let's just keep it to yourself, for now. Like I know I can't change your mind, but let's not.
I know I can't change your mind, but my God, like one of our, like in this case, I'm like, we're sharing a room with a Korean. Can you not?
Yeah, like that's this thing. Like people just need to stop with the anti each other. Like please.
That's actually
not.
I didn't mention this podcast because we didn't have all of our segments, but Ed mentioned in the chat about just thinking about lyrics, how artists succeed or fail with having lyrics that appeal to both sexes. Might be a good future podcast topic. I do think that's a good podcast topic, and I do think that we're going to use that. Also, just to reiterate, I didn't say it this podcast because I deleted all of our segment info, but we are open to podcast topics, and I can only assume people on YouTube will be watching this a lot. So if you have any, and you want to watch us regularly, let us know topics. But anyway, you're gonna say something before.
Don't forget the JPop Summit segment. Dang it!
So we'll go over that real fast. Now I had a note that I skipped over entirely earlier about how one of the reasons I think K-pop is really big because they have events similar to K-Con. Now K-Con's an event that happens in New York and LA. It's just New York and LA. I think it's just those two, right?
Well, they have it around the world.
They do. Oh, they do because you went to one in Japan. I forgot.
Yeah, they have Japan. I think they have like Thailand or something. They have like all over now. It's kind of weird.
So they have an event like that, and there's not really an event like that in the U.S. I wish we talked about this earlier. I totally forgot that. In my opinion, that J-pop like has a much harder uphill battle to fight here because a lot of it gets piggybacked onto anime or like mainly anime. There's not even much else to say. It gets piggybacked on anime.
Huge, but anime is the only thing really like what can compete, like maybe Love Live, like I don't know. It's really hard, but
that being said, if I because like K-Con in my opinion is like the pinnacle of what a multicultural, not multicultural, that's not the word I'm looking for. I guess it kind of is.
Manuel,
what happened?
My screen just went out because Yeah, I know. I'm running out of battery. I only have 7%.
You know what? Let's just wrap this. I assure you we'll have another one of these at some point. So we'll come back to that. Actually, I feel it's a topic I shouldn't rush over anyway. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to have a few announcements I'm going to get through real fast. If you want to support us on Patreon, you could do that. Patreon.com/AJConnections. All sorts of stuff there. I won't say exactly what because of time, but check us out. We have a lot of good stuff there. Support us for as little as $1. If you like what we do, supports us. I think Sean's gone because now he's calling me on something else. Yeah, he's gone. Rip. His thing's gonna disappear in a second. It's fine because he's calling me on a thing. I can answer it, but I can't. Hold on, let me see if I can get him.
Let's hurry up. I'm hungry. Oh, I was gonna say I'm wearing a Twice shirt today, which is very representative of J-pop and K-pop.
We're just gonna wrap you up because I can't connect you to my laptop, but you could say your goodbye through the mic, maybe. Oh, I don't think he can. Anyway, he can't, but he's saying bye. Just wave bye.
We all say bye.
We are.
We all say bye.
No, wait, not yet. Just
Bye.
wait. I'm not done yet. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Just I gotta say bye for you. Thanks for being on. No, we're already trying to wrap up. So anyway. But we will do this again, and thank you for being on, though. And we'll cover. We didn't actually finish the topic. We're gonna save that for a future podcast. For sure, we're gonna do this again. Don't worry. So anyhow, we'll say bye to him, but we're gonna wrap up with a few more announcements. Everyone, thanks Sean for being on tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, I'll talk to you later. So anyhow, support us on Patreon. Sorry about like some of our technical difficulties. It happens. Like Molly lost her camera. I know he's gone, and our cameras are other
I
cameras.
still don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, but that's that. Shout out to our current patrons, Ed and Kenneth. If you want to support us for the littlest dollar, do that there. If you like what we do, want to keep supporting us. If not, then like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Let us know. You know, that's awesome too. I don't really, mind. But if you can, support us through Patreon. We're not going to be live next weekend, but we are having a special podcast this Thursday, September 20th, in 2 days, day after tomorrow. It's going to be an Achan episode and AKB48 classic episode in light of her announcement of being preggers. That's exactly what I wrote, so I'm reading it like that. Yes, preggers. We're going to wax nostalgic about old AKB. So check that one out, please. Sorry for doing the chat because I closed my chat on accident. Check that out too. That's actually episode number 41. I thought we'd break on 40, but number 41. Heidi's going to be on that one as well as Jasmine. Maybe Konara. I'm not sure if we break out this 4-person thing. Also, I didn't mention it, but this is our brand new 4-person layout. Shout out to my friend Leslie who put this together for us. I think her name's Haro something on. I'll have a link. I forgot her name. I'll have a link to her Instagram below if you want to follow her as well. She does really good stuff on her own, graphic design as well as she's a model. But yeah. So we're gonna be at Kraken Con next weekend. So check us out there. I'll announce that again on Thursday. So especially watch us on Thursday, please. We're live on Thursday. Thank you. And anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up and say bye, Tiffany, Molly?
Bye.
That's it.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone for watching. Bye.